Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to shim your starter on your small block, keep it from making a bunch of noise and embarrassing you at the car show when you go to leave. Okay, for starters, there were two different design flex plates. You had your 153 tooth and your 168 tooth. Pretty much the 153 tooth came on all your 283s, your 265s, your 307s, stuff like that. Maybe some of the smaller Journal 327s, but I'm not sure. And then your 168 tooth flex plate pretty much came on everything from 68 on, except for the 307. The 307s later after that still had the 153 tooth flex plate. But anyway, the starters are specific to each one. You can tell a 153 tooth starter because the bolt holes are directly across from each other. It's going to use one long bolt and one short bolt. It'll use a long bolt like this and a short bolt like this. And you'll notice the bolts are special bolts. They're knurled. I'll get back to that later. The 168 tooth flex plate uses a starter with diagonal bolt holes. All right. It uses two of the longer starter bolts, also knurled, because all of them need the knurl on the bolts. Now when it comes to installing your starter, you want to use the correct bolts. Sure, you can put a 3/8/16 bolt in there that's the right length, but probably what's going to happen is the knurl on the factory bolts actually comes out past the edge of the starter and it locates it in the block. Now if you don't have the knurl on there to properly locate the starter, it's going to start coming loose on you. If the knurls are worn out, and they do wear out, replace it with a new bolt like this one that I picked up at the local parts house, and it's got some fresh knurling on there. And the difference, it'll shock you. If you've got a starter that keeps coming loose and you do have the factory bolt with the knurl on it, put some new ones in there. It might solve your problem. Okay, so now we're going to take the budget motor for the Budget Nova. I'm going to show you how to properly mount the starter, shim it up, and get the correct distance between your flex plate and your starter gear. Okay, any newer remanufactured starter you buy is going to come with shims. All right, you want to save those. These happen to be safety or zip tied to the starter. So I'm going to cut those out of the way, get that out of my bolt hole. I'm going to take my two equal length bolts because this is the larger flex plate starter. All right, and I'm going to put this, I'm leaving the flex plate off for right now so that I can show you mounting the starter easier with the camera. So, and it's probably a bad idea to have my leg under this motor, but I'll be all right. Let's not do it. So we're going to put it in without any shims. Get it started on both our bolt holes. All right, I'm going to hold this up and then tighten them. A little bit of grime on that one. I probably got to pull it back out and clean it. Since we're not going to be starting it yet, it'll be okay. Okay. Now, I put it in there without any shims. And like I said, the starter comes with a couple of different shims. But we're going to put it out without any shims. Now we're going to put the flex plate on and we're going to check our clearance. Okay, so I got my flex plate on here. I've got a little bit of clearance here. I'm going to put a couple of bolts in here to hold that. And I'll always make sure you got the right length flex plate bolts. They sell some that are longer for different crank flanges. And if you can tighten those up, you can actually hit the back of the crank or the back of the block and screw things up. So you definitely want to make sure you've got the right length crank bolts. I learned that the hard way, especially on a one-piece rear seal block. I screwed some too long bolts in there and messed up the aluminum housing for the one-piece seal. Okay, let's see if you can see this. I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up. I'm going to try to get as close as I can without blocking the light. Now, what you're supposed to do, one way to measure it is to get the Bendix gear to come out and engage in the flywheel or flex plate. When it does engage in the flex plate, what you do is you measure between the bottom of the flex plate tooth here and the peak of the gear tooth. And you want about 20 to 30 thousandths of an inch. And if you don't have any round filler gauges, what you can do is you can use a piece of welding wire like this one. And this is a 025 welding wire. So that's right in the middle of where you're supposed to be. Okay, so there are two ways that you can measure the clearance on this starter. You can power up just the solenoid by hitting the starter wire over here, not powering up the main starter. Powering up just the starter wire, and once the tooth comes out and engages with the flex plate, once the gear comes out and engages with the flex plate, you can use your piece of welding wire or whatever, your feeler gauge, whatever you got, and put it in there and check the clearance. but that's really difficult to do, especially under a car and trying to energize just the starter solenoid or trying to pry it out with a screwdriver, which is certainly possible, but it spins as it comes out. So it's really, really difficult and a pain in the butt to get that. So what I normally do is I go the other way. I take an 1/8 inch Allen wrench or drill bit. A drill bit is better because it's concentric all the way around, obviously. But you can use the flat size of an 1/8 inch Allen wrench, and between the outside of the flex plate and the inside of the gear pinion, if you put that in there and you've got exactly 125 thousandths of an inch to 130 thousandths of an inch, you're going to have a quiet starter. Now, if it's not, if you can't get 125 in there, if it's too tight, that one slides in there just right. So it slides in, but it has some resistance. So not bad at all. Now, if it's tighter than that, you need to shim the starter, because when you shim this starter down, it's already below the max distance from the center of this. So anyway, when you shim this down, it's going to increase the distance between the flex plate and that pivot. Now, if you've got too much room between there, chances are you've got the wrong starter, the wrong flex plate, or whatever combination of those. And sometimes you may have to go swap your starter for one that's cut a little bit deeper up here on the mounting flange. I think I've only had one that had too much on here, and it was at a little bit of an angle. And I just basically took it back and swapped it for another starter, and it fit just fine. Now, another piece you really want to try to run if you can get away with it using a factory starter is the factory starter brace. Now, there are two of these. There's two different sizes. This one is not the size for this starter because it comes up here too far. But there's a shorter one and a longer one. This one is actually one of the ones off the smaller starters, and it will be shorter and comes in. So, like I said, there's two different ones of these, and you should have this on there, because without this on there, the starter will pretty much break the nose eventually, especially if you have any decent compression at all. I like to run factory style starters because if they break and I'm on a trip, I can replace them at almost any part store. Nothing wrong with an aftermarket starter, but the factory ones, if you're running those, run this brace, because it's going to keep you from breaking the nose cone on the starter. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit into the wiring on the back of the starter. Now, you've got your starter motor and you've got your solenoid, okay? You've got your Bendix and your Bendix gear that pop out. Your solenoid here is electromagnetic solenoid, and it's got a lever that moves here, pulls this in, and it kicks the solenoid out to engage with the flex plate. At the same time, it switches your power from your battery, which is coming down to here, to the post on the motor and engages the motor. So it kicks it out, spins the motor at the same time. Now, you've got two terminals here and here that are your start and your run terminal. It's got an S and an R. The start engages the starter. The R terminal, your run terminal, what that does on points ignition cars, that sends power back up to the coil a full 12 volts. And the reason it does that is when your ignition switch is in the cranking position on point style ignitions, it does not send power to your resistor wire going up to the coil. Instead, it lets power go from here to here back up to your coil a full 12 volts. When you let go of it, when the engine cranks up, when you go back into the run position, it disconnects this, and your run wire from your ignition switch is now going to your ignition coil with the resistor in it, not getting the full 12 volts, to make sure you don't burn your points up. Hopefully that helps a few of you that didn't understand what that was about. Now, if you don't have points ignition on your car, if you've got other than factory wiring, you've got HEI switched over, or whatever you've got, just ignore this. Now, also, if you're running an external solenoid like I am on most of my cars, what I do is I run my power from my output of my external solenoid. A Ford style solenoid is what I use. I run the load side of my Ford style solenoid down to here, and then I put a jumper from here to here. And you have to run a full size wire. You can't run a small wire down to this because it pulls a lot of current. But what you do is you take that Ford solenoid, you hook your battery to one side of it, the other side of it, the output side of it, you run down to here and you hook it to here and here. That way, when you energize your Ford solenoid, your remote starter solenoid, it's going to send power down to both of these at the same time, and it works just like the factory would work. Now, the benefit to that is I don't have a hot wire up under my headers all the time. So if it gets cooked or melted or something like that, it's only going to be a problem when I engage the remote starter that's up on the firewall away from my headers and all that. It'll usually keep you from having a hot start solenoid problem. Usually. This solenoid can still get hot and be a problem, but a lot of times that keeps you from having that problem. So remote mount solenoid, you jump these two out, have your big wire coming to here, small wire going over to your start terminal. Your remote solenoid's up there, and then you just run your starter wire that would run here to your start terminal on your remote solenoid. And your remote solenoid also should have, if it's the old enough one, should also have a run terminal on it if you're still using points ignition and you want to run the remote solenoid. Okay, so hopefully some of that information helps some of you guys out. Figured I'd do a quick video because someone asked me about shimming a starter. I thought it'd make a pretty good video, so that's what you do. I wish I could have been able to get the Bennix to pop out, but it's aggravating. Like I said, you can hook power to it and pop just the Bennix out without going to the starter, but you know, if most people are trying to do this in their car, I just don't suggest doing that. If you get this thing spinning around while you're under there, accidentally engage the power on the starter, it's a bad day. You don't want that. So like I said, I usually go with 125 to 130 thousandths between the edge of the flex plate and the shaft on the starter, the gear shaft on the starter. Some starters have a smaller or larger gear shaft. You need to make sure. If you got a weird reading, try it and then add some shims to it. If it's squealing real bad or squeaking real bad, probably needs shims. If it's grinding real bad, you might have a loose starter. If it's kicking back, probably a loose starter. Check for a cracked nose cone. There's a lot of different ways, and I might have got some of that backwards, but I think I was right. There's a lot of different ways you can troubleshoot that, and also make sure that you don't have a cracked block, because I've seen the starter pad break off blocks before, which is another good reason to use that brace that goes back up here on the back of the starter. Anytime you have something bouncing around under there like that with that much torque, you really don't want to have to junk a good block because of the edge of it breaking off. And it can be fixed, but it's never the same. So anyway, appreciate you guys checking out the video. Leave a comment, leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you feel inclined to do so, and we'll see you next video. God almighty,